recording an episode. Am I officially a podcaster now? I mean, I think so. This is crazy. I'm so happy. Being human sounds really simple. But the more you think about it, the more you realize it's not really that simple. What I can say about being human is that it reminds me of the verb to be. And there are so many other verbs that follow that, but it's a state of being in the world. Yeah, I could go down that route, but also thinking about what it means being human in a very few characteristics, I could say beautiful, messy, layered, an onion, and full of contradictions. I believe this is what this podcast is here to explore. All these big questions that makes up who we are. Welcome to the Human Science Podcast. My name is Anna, and I'm your host. Well, a little bit about me is I have a background in psychology, and this background comes from a very global perspective and full of different schools of thought. I am really interested in how different schools of thought think about the same phenomenon in different ways. And, there's no one is better than the other. They're all different and full of rich and important things to be talked about. So that's one thing I really enjoy. But, my knowledge in psychology, which is my object of study, comes from the American system and the Brazilian educational system. In the American system, I went to college. I got my bachelor's in psychology at Florida International University. I got a track in applied behavior analysis at the time, which is, by the way, something that I do not really tend to, work down that route these days, but it's something I was interested in learning at the time. Took a lot of philosophy classes, and the meaning of life was, the human aspect of things were very intertwined. But at the same time, before doing all of this in the US, I've learned a lot from the Brazilian educational system, where I got my K-12 education. But as I move forward, I keep in touch with scholars over there, which you may see some in this space. But I do learn existentialist phenomenological psychology through a Sartrean lens from the Nexus Institute. And as of now, also not only college, I am a PhD student, and I am getting my doctorate degree in clinical psychology at Duquesne University. So we'll talk more about what is these different domains in psychology and all of that, but what I can say is my knowledge comes from everywhere. And one thing that made me think about all these different bits and pieces of my journey is how the field is so rich. There's so much in there. It's so many different ways of thinking. But yet, the field, I find it still so divided. Hold on, let me explain. But what I can say about that is I feel like, research is in the research lab. Psychology is with the therapists in the clinical room. Teaching, yeah, it's over there in the university. And, as I started teaching in my journey now, and as I speak to other people who are, most of them are not in the psychological field, the more I realized how, thinking of psychology, not just in the psychology world, but in relation to the world, the real world, it's so big. Like, psychology is perhaps not the whole of things, but is a part of every single thing. And I do feel like the field has all these narrow boxes that psychology end up falling into. But in reality, psychology is in everything. And I've been longing a space where psychology could be this everything and talked about. I do implement that a lot in my teaching in the best ways I can. For an example, today we talked about research. And as we talked about it, before even getting into the whole research project, idea, we were going for how do you make peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Some of them knew what was coming, some didn't. And we talked about how research is about things in the world, things that sometimes we make assumptions of, and how critical it is to having all the steps absolutely layered down for replication and validity of a study. So we talked about how, research is part of things, and sometimes the more you know, the more assumptions that could come. So this podcast really is my way of wanting to tie it all together and have these conversations and how research can be in this room teaching lived experiences in general, through psychology or a different field of study or your own personal life. Having that said, though, I will not be doing this alone. Maybe a couple episodes, but the idea is to bring someone to exchange those ideas, people that have been in the field of, psychology, philosophy, sciences, people who bring to the table a different perspective and are working towards expanding the field in so many different ways. As we have these conversations, we'll be talking about big questions like how can joy and sadness coexist? Who am I? Who are we? How language, culture, belonging, like all these different things make up who we are, and how does it all tie to mental health and well-being? Having those big questions and bringing evidence and scientific things into the conversation, but really bridging the gap of we're just humans doing mundane things, and scholars, people that devote their whole lives for the advancement of their respected fields. And as we do that, since it is like considered, in my head, an idea of a bridge, I really hope like it doesn't end up being like just a conversation between like me and the future guest. I hope you feel invited into the conversation. Hope you feel like it's something that you would like to share with us as well, and just be an extension of human interaction. Before I leave you today, I would love to ask you, what is human science? Is it psychology? Is it philosophy? Is it none of that? What is human science? In the next episode, I'll have a very special guest, and we'll be talking more about what is that. And until then, thank you so much for watching and for being here from the very beginning. It means a lot. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye. I just recorded an episode. Am I officially a podcaster now? I mean, I think so. This is crazy. I'm so happy.